Hello and welcome to India Career Center, the one stop podcast for students, professionals, parents, and guardians. In every episode, we will try to deal with a current topic that needs expert advice related to career guidance, and career mentoring. Please welcome your host, Dr. S.P. Mishra, to the show. And happy listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on India Career Center. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Jaishankar Das, who is a deep tech scientist turned entrepreneur who co-founded the company called Elementos Research. He focuses on sustainable solution for global food security by developing alternative proteins and biodiesel from insects. His work aims at to reduce carbon footprints and promote circular economy. Dr. Das holds a PhD in environmental technology and has been recognized globally for his innovative contribution to the work. Dr. Jaishankar, it's a great pleasure for me to invite another global ODI, if I can say so, to our podcast. This is the series of conversations I'm trying to hold with a lot of eminent leaders, thought leaders, and prominent entrepreneurs from Odisha. So it's a great honor to be hosting you today and learning from your domain expertise, which is a new area for me. I don't know anything about your domain knowledge. So it's a great opportunity for me to learn about your subject. And hopefully through this conversation, a lot of young people in India will be able to see the conversation and learn from your knowledge. Thank you for your time today and welcome to the India Career Center podcast today.
Thank you so much, SP, inviting me to this podcast. Hope I can worth justify my experience and pass this to the audience.
Right. So to start our conversation, take us through your journey so far, Dr. Das, from Odisha to a global stage, and from being a research-oriented person to becoming an entrepreneur. It's fascinating to hear something like this from you. So take us through this journey of yours so far.
Yeah, thanks. So my journey is quite interesting and as well challenging. But I can feel out here, and I'd love to share the entire thing. So I'm coming from an East Coast place. I'm coming from Cuttack. It was a former capital of Odisha, financial capital. So the place where I am groomed is actually not known for going into scientific journey or academic journey. Into it is a very much into the business and where the training happens from the British India times. And from there, studying the schoolings from here in Cuttack, and all of my educations up to my masters were inside the Odisha's universities. So during those days, I was not that fascinated towards more the science and more on the higher studies. But honestly speaking, I was more excited on developing some of the solutions. I could remember that when I was doing in the graduation, some of the solutions which can help on the agriculture farmers to cultivate their things made a faster way, get developing some of the innovations I wanted to bring. I love attracted towards going exhibitions those days. Though those time in Odisha we have very less exposure. Coming up international exposures or national exposures where we can see in Bhubaneswar or in the state, which we can realize by looking and meeting the people over there. So during the time, I was excited by one of my teacher where he was trying to do research in their PhD. Then we understand, okay, there is a concept where we can go into research areas. So I'm a student of the plant science in the graduations, and then I thought of there is a scope where we can do though Odisha do not have. And then we got into multiple exams and try to get into the scientific career, starting a PhDs. Very excitedly got very renowned persons. Right now he's a very renowned person. That time he was a scientist in Ministry of Environment and Forest, and I was so much excited by him, the way science works, the way science feels, rather than it is in the lab based. So understanding the real life problem. So he studied in UK, Dr. Mao, and he come back to India and then try to learn and inspire people, and I'm happy to join them, their team. And then it was really really good working in northeast India, really understanding when I go into little deeper of away from the metro cities in India is very big. And if you go into deeper and you can see that each and every segment having so massive problem. where might be through your technologies or innovations can bring a little solutions, and if you can. So there the journey started, and then I became a scientist in an institutions in Government of India, and try to work lots on the Himalayan basis. So while the entire journey came up, the most crucial part which I realized of the downline of 15 years was that first at the initial phase, we were very much excited to do something where we think that the solutions we can bring down. Then in the next phase, I realized that the problem is so big. The impact of the problem is so big, magnitude is so big that you can't, your solution is not worth. It has to go beyond that. And there, I think there is a requirement of the government interventions, industries interventions, startups, academia. Everybody has to come together, including the individual segment. So I remember my first article when I wrote it in my entire life. My first article was a bit not a scientific article. It was a kind of a debate at those times. The largest genetic paradise of India lacks biotechnological implementations. So I say that. So I thought of the entire largest genetic paradise was Northeast having so much resources. We were unable to explore that for the human welfare. That was my concept that time. And I inclining towards problem solving attitude. I was more trained into a little bit on administration post that while working in administration sites. And during my scientific career, I understand now that government's intervention is very much required. And in that way, I think my journey takes a shape. And at last 5 years, the most crucial part while taking up an entrepreneurial journey, the most igniting part was that I realized that India is filing, being the largest ecosystem, almost 60,000 patents per year. I was handling the IP segment a lot, and I saw that this is not being commercialized. When we go into deeper, then I found out that the segment of IP, when we're looking at innovation index in the world, so India is very, very way behind than the Sweden, Switzerland, South Korea. So the innovations is happening, of course, because we are doing great in our universities and IITs, but it is not coming to the stage where deployments can happen. So during this journey, I think it was a bit restlessness in me that okay, I come across with a lot of big problems as a scientist, which needs to address also. But also I saw there are a lot of things happening in and around where it is not going on a deployment zone. So there I think I started shifting of my entire life to devote towards deployment zone rather than innovating zone a lot, where I can build ventures based and where you can really put problem solving attitudes can be really really worth, and where you can really helping the human or the human welfare to address this. Yeah, so the journey was quite from the Katak to the journey of the entrepreneur was very challenging, I can say. And I realized a lot of problems which I thought really need to address. Maybe it is very small from me to start with. So a lot of where I saw India can be really, really big and really massive and really be the king and heart of those where we have already lack of, we have gone beyond that. We have been delayed in that segment, though we have the fantastic manpower on place. Yeah, so this is what the journey is. I'm enjoying my journey now.
Okay, so you have been an academician, you have been a person with the government, and now you are a entrepreneur yourself. So all these three are important factors in a society to develop into an innovative society. But as per you, since you have seen all of them, which lever is the biggest and the strongest?
So I think I'm very much fortunate to have this. I still didn't get a lot of people I came across who has all this together, having an experience of academic industries and government and then entrepreneurial. That was kind of a bit rare. But of course, I will more rank it while working with the government, having on the chair where I understand the industry's relations a lot. Because the who can solve the problem is more the industries and the people. Government only is facilitating. We can facilitate everything. So I found that role was very crucial. Academic role is just kind of a promoting role. Academic roles can strengthening you in terms of understanding the knowledge part. Understand the subject parts a lot. But while going the real problem when it comes on the scaling up, regulatory deployment, then the manufacturing, AI, or any of the cross-disciplinary subject, because innovations can't just go. So those part, I think government roles plays an important role. I am placed on that. After that, I was a part of the university in a very high position. So in that segment also, I think the roles of administrations with the governments in terms of the policy sides and understanding the real scenarios of industry. And being a tech guy, I understand that what to fit is exactly that. So that is one of the advantage I have because a tech guy on this all 360-degree makes an advantage. But I think government innovations, technology developer and the government will be the most crucial part here. You need technology people. You need to have the technology in hand which can be developed in India. And also the government has to realize that yes, it is requirement. And what are the requirements to do deployment and which time to launch it and the scale. So I think these two roles are very important. And I realize that, yeah.
Okay. So you have been involved in biotech, you have been involved in AI, you have been involved in clean tech and energy tech. So these are some of the words are actually new for us, especially the clean tech and energy tech. So how all these areas are actually, joining together to create your innovative products in your organization now?
So if you look into the last 10 years of the whole world shifting of the way world is looking at before and now, so there was a very, very huge leap, very huge shifting has happened. That's because of, you can see the frequently people use the term sustainability. So when the term sustainability came up, then all the technology and people are bit more, confined to give a solutions which will be sustainable because the problem statements in every segment was so big, whether it is a pollution segment, whether you called it the healthcare, whether it is a affordable agriculture, affordable healthcare, whether it is a kind of logistics, or whether you can tell space. Every segment lacks sustainability at before end. Now the whole world is seeing the technology has to be sustainability. From where the technological paradigm and even the terminology has got shifted, like energy tech came up or clean tech when they're telling. So clean tech means the technological solutions which is completely clean and it moves in a circular economy, 360 degrees. So towards sustainability. Same on energy tech. These all are so interrelated. Only the biotechnologies and artificial intelligence is a kind of a core backbone of the technological wing. But the solution sides are more on the energy tech, clean tech, and the sustainable tech. Now it is real estates also it is coming up so well into the sustainabilities, even all the bricks, machineries, everything. So this is all connected. And coming back to my roles out here, that I was a lot of following of United Nations and the UN forums and the UNESCO's, UNDP's, all the allied areas, including WHO's. So the mandates of sustainability when it started up, and how India is following up and how other countries are following up in terms of developing technology sides. There I realized that I came across with some of the very, very large problem. I can cite it to here. Is like a food waste, is a waste management as a whole. Any kind of waste management is a massive, whether you start with the food waste to electronic waste. Then second one was, as I said, that still there is a poverty in the world. Hungerness is the world. So there is a one way there is a waste and there is an imbalance in the food. People are not, dying in the hunger. So that's food securities, that those are massive waste. So food securities, waste management, and the energy securities, I feel for me is one of the biggest challenges. Even if we see in United Nations Economic Forum, that is one of the major two addressing challenges which world has to focus. The money has to divert for that. So I think that those from where I started understanding that what kind of technology we can put up, where Elementos has taken birth. But Elementos is just started. But I think this is such a bigger area as I'm talking about towards sustainabilities. And we are so early stage in the world, and India is just started realizing. So then we have to go so long addressing those problems, and you need thousands of companies like Elementos has to be there where each dots can be connected, because it's a very big 360 degrees of, if you talk about carbon credit, if you talk about emissions to reduce, if you talk on controlling the emissions, if you talk the foods to agricultures to the food, to the logistics coming to the human, even the waste to manage everything, and each segment the technology to deploy it. I think I'm talking, it's a very bigger problem, what we are trying to understand. And mostly it will take 15 to 20 years to come down. You can't reduce the 1% of the entire carbon. That will take like a 15 to 20 years of the entire world's peoples to work on. So yeah. So I think I understand that segment. The technology is more right now towards sustainability, for which this terminology has come up.
Okay, so now trying to understand about your company itself, you are trying to address some of the problems which you just mentioned. To understand better, would you give some sense in terms of numbers? For example, you spoke about food wastage, you spoke about sustainability. So I believe you are trying to solve some of these big global problems through your organization. And through that, what are the solutions or the products which you're trying to, or the solutions which you're trying to create or you have created, which you are trying to now promote it? So give a sense of that.
Yeah. So I'll cite a few digits first, which it will be like a mind bubbling if you understand the digits. See, uh, you know, uh, one in people, 1 in 9 people go to the bed completely with empty stomach in this world right now, and a child die in hunger in every 10 seconds.
My
So this is
goodness.
kind of a United Nations, data I'm talking about. So one way there is a requirement of food to go to every people. So there's a food securities issues is coming up. Poverty is there. Another way, the amount of food we produced all over the world is producing around 1.3 billions tons, of the food, which is annually going lost, which is nothing but a $1 trillion economy is the size of an Australian economy, which is going lost straight away. It is imbalanced. So we call it in general 1/3 of the entire food loss. So if you really little analyze, it's not about just wastage of a food. Starting from the agricultural lands covered to get this food on ground and involving each process lines, industries going to logistics path, emissions across the kind of billions of people involved into the segment with the economies is completely lost. And another way, the same way when we're losing this, either it goes to landfill or recycle. And 22% of the entire waste is only recycling. So the rest are completely into, going to the landfill, which is creating another bigger issues of the emissions, which is going of your carbon emissions, methane emissions. The local cities are getting affected. And if you go in Delhi, Bombay, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Bhubaneswar, any cities, if you go abroad also, it's the same thing. It is kind of a hills, it is a hills of the landfills, which is creating problem in that city or the nearby cities. We have to burn it. We have to do the low cost technology to put up for managing that. So imagine we started with the food when we're growing up, unable to utilize that properly, and it goes into the landfill. In the entire segment, the loss is so big. So that is the problem which I realized before. Another way of looking that problem statement was that we are human beings, so our food, our land, agricultural lands are very limited. So you can't encroach in the forest lands to convert into agricultural lands. So in that segment also, you find that we have developed a system down the line of 200, 300 years back, and we completely broken the entire agri-food systems of ours and tried to develop a food systems which was not of ours. So we developed animal feed as a major segment where the animal feed productions has been occupied and taken up the space of the human agricultural land, the crop land. So if I said the problem is 80% of our agricultural croplands has been occupied for the habits to give completely for the animal feed industries, whether you do soya, maize, or any kind of grazing, anything. So that's big imbalance. So there is a three statements I gave it in this way. One way, you have a land footprint having issues, carbon footprint having an issues. Your food loss is so massive, you are unable to control because now you are talking about 8.4 billion people on the grounds. It's not controllable right now. Then second is that another way people are dying without food. That is another problem. Everybody doesn't have the food on plates. So you have already imbalanced the plates and the food. So in that segment, element was what we thought of. I started realizing this problem, and I come down to the solutions that if we can restore the lands which can occupy it for the human food, that is, I think, one of the biggest disruption will happen. And I thought a lot of companies are doing in the same segment. A lot of government are trying to do in the same segment. So there is the major contributions is the proteins and the feed component, which is utilizing for tackling those things. So we are losing kind of a size of a South Korea every year. So that is the size we're losing for the croplands. So I think there are technologies which required because human beings and the animals require proteins. So protein security is directly a food security issues. And that is the energy, of course. So I think that solutions, if we can have a sustainable sources, slowly that can be restored and it can be sustainable sources can be more increased. So sustainable way of doing productions, we have moved our entire segment into the alternative protein production systems, where there are a lot of biotechnological advancements came up during the time, like cultured protein. People have gone into vegan industries. Plant is already there, but it is again not a sustainable way because you need scale. It is already there. Second is that the timeline, you need to have the sustainable protein path by 2030, 35, the production is to be so high. So you can't take a plant as a major path. You have to have alternative systems. People use algae a lot. So what we are trying to build is that we are taking insects and also algal proteins as well. So insects, we are targeting, looking that it is a very less utilized in the entire world. People use micro for their therapeutics and everything. People use animals, people use human and every segment, fish, everything. Now, insect was a segment which was very less utilized. So we try to involve insects, try to deploy the insects, looking the insects as in protein sources, trying to deprive the proteins, and also trying to look at how that it can be a part of the animal feed ingredient as a core ingredient. And during that segments, we have developed a couple of technologies which can go into the poultry, aqua industries, and pet industries. I think later on, now Europe and US are coming up with more towards human consumption as well. So basically, we're targeting not as an insect, but as an alternative protein sources technologies to deprive where our lands can be restored. And we can produce as a zero carbon footprint with a complete net zero technologies, and which can go to animal feed industry so that the feed components which is meant for human can be diverted there. And in that segment, the insects or the other sources, if the energy part also can be restored, that can be go as an alternative fuel industries to the energy. So it's kind of a complete end-to-end sustainable sources technology Elementos is focusing on in the segment of alternative protein. Yeah.
So what I have understood is that you are trying to create a food for the animal feeds in such a manner. It is alternative, it is protein based, it is insect based, and which means that the current feed which is going into the animal feed system can actually get diverted towards the human consumption, which is actually now getting diverted into the animal feed. So is that my understanding correct?
So this is in a bigger picture. That is correct. In the deployment zone picture, there are certain issues. For example, India, taking as a case studies, India has a lot of import alliances, taking those all the material. When I'm taking feed, there is a 30, 35 ingredients are there. We import a lot from different enzymes, probiotics, hormones. So in that segment, one biggest disadvantage is antibiotics. So we are humans, if you look into the trend of healthcare, so why Elementos is so much into the sustainability is that if you look into human, the biggest death cause by most 2035 is the antimicrobial resistance. So AMR, we call it. So antimicrobial resistance, if you just Google, it is the biggest cause of the death of coming up, which is now the second largest, which will be the biggest. And the major antimicrobial resistance is happening due to the antibiotics coming to our body, which is we indirectly taking through the animals sources. So when we're giving animals a lot of antibiotics, so that we are eating up again, so in the form of our food, so that is going and it is getting resistance to us. And when we have a disease, it is not working on. So AMR is the biggest, and you do not have a fourth or fifth generation, and again fifth generation antibiotics or sixth generation antibiotics. It takes hundreds of years to come up. And in that segment, you need sustainable sources to get out of rather developing new antibiotics. So I think in that case, we realized very early, and entire global sustainable ecosystem, people who believe in that, they realize early. And we wanted to stop that sources of antibiotics and unsustainable sources which needs to go into human food chain. So our food chain is already disturbed. So that will be only possible if your alternative sources is adding this impact as well. So by telling that, I am so much serious into looking why animal feed. This is one of the biggest industries, if you look at, and this is one of the biggest industry which is a bit unorganized due to a lot of import alliances, due to a lot of antibiotic sources, due to a lot of sources, and very less tech driven, extremely less tech driven. It is a kind of a traditional business the way it is happening. So we are not bothering from where the raw material is coming, what you need to put. So it is just a formulation, you do aggregation and put it up. It's very unorganized, but it is a daily requirement in the country. So I think in that segment, we realize that while developing the protein meals, which will go for the poultry, aqua, pet, or any kind of even human further. So our formulations or the sustainable sources should have zero antibiotics, and completely we should come up with the product which is fully 100% sustainable. So that what we eat, it should be, we are confident that we are not going to be. I think that it is still too early in India, but post 5 6 years, you will see that a lot of companies and a lot of people will come up. And I think we will be having a 5 to 10 to 20% change in the antibiotic free. Then I think one day it will be completely free. You can't do overnight. Like internationally, they have already stopped taking, they call it AGP, antibiotic. They don't give antibiotics. We still giving antibiotics. So we are unable to export them. So I think we have to realize also from that aspects, we need to give our next generation at least a safer world.
Okay, here I would like to ask a couple of questions. One is that, few years back, I read an article about the artificial meat which is getting prepared, and probably that is being seen as one of the alternatives to the animal food what we have right now. That's one. And number two, a few days back, there was an article on the newspaper where, in fact, I think the Hindu, where they are talking about how insects can become the part of the protein feed for human being. I think there was very interesting article about it. So do you see these two gaining momentum in coming years?
Of course, and I think third algae also is coming up. There are two ways of looking into this also. One is that if you look into our traditional food sources of some parts of in India, like Northeast India and China, Indonesia, and all those Asian countries, insect is already in their culture, in their food. So it is already there as a source of the protein. Now another way, if you can look into that, how cost effectively we can make the sources. It is not about giving an insect. Insect is just a source. So the protein which you'll be using in the protein bars or the chocolate bars or including your daily food, the sources will be insects, various kinds of insects. Of course, I am seeing it as a bigger market because this segment is growing in the 40% CAGR, one of the biggest and fastest growing sector currently. Europe is doing massively into that, though they are not into the culture of the insects, but they are the one who are taken up the insects proteins into the mainstream lines of the animal feed right now, and pass the regulatory in US, including an FDA. So I think that is one of the major part. Another part is that, as you say, cultured protein. Cultured protein is also one of the amazing area. The only thing is the cost of the productions, the scale of the production which we India or the country needs. If that can be achieved by them. Another is the regulatory, how the raw materials and you're controlling the culture, but still the cultured meat, when you say it has to be the very the resources which we are using has to be from the sustainable sources, then the cultured meat is a very good one. So yeah, these both are very amazing source of the alternative protein. I think algae works. A lot of algal proteins are there. We are also working on the algal proteins a lot. So where we are trying to develop those protein to the human, straight away to the human. We are trying to give vitamin B12, which is normally an animal protein, that is completely lack in the segment of the plant. But we're identifying a couple of plants which is into that segment and trying to deploy those into the mainstream human protein segment. So yeah, I think these are the future. I mean, alternative protein is the future, and I beat insects being having some of the advantages by the God grace with the faster productions, omnipresence, and the cultivations issues are less, adapting to the human ecosystems. I think that has a lot of advantage with bioavailability. Technically, you can say that the pelletability when we do pellets, those will be a little bit, better in terms of insects at all. Yeah.
And you mentioned about the sustainable biofuel also. So, do you see that as a byproduct of whatever you're doing with respect to addressing the problem of food security?
So our major byproducts are actually fertilizer, which is going green fertilizers, and so our oil, the insect oil, which we have, is having the components which is actually fitting to the definitions of a B100, we call it, which is a very pure biodiesel. B20, B50, B100 categories are there. B100 is the purest one. So B100 biodiesel type. We're very recently supported by the government on the segment of an economic feasibilities to look techno-economic feasibilities to have insect as a sources, insects oil, and take it to a biofuel. So this is one of the biggest area will come up. Why I will tell you that the municipality waste, if you look into the whole of the world, so municipality waste were unorganized waste or kind of having a lot of heavy metals and contaminants. So this can be a very well gone through an insect platforms, and insect can help into converting into the biofuel part as an insect oil goes into the biofuel, and the fresh, the fertilizer, which is is a kind of blessings, having additional chitins and all of good materials which is required for agricultural products. So I think those two lines will be in upcoming areas on the insect industries, especially down the line of 10 years, I can see. Yeah, it is very big industries on alternative energy targeting is insect as a sources. So it is not a byproduct, it's a mainstream product, biofuel. But again, you have an oil, if I can use it on feed or biofuel, I have to choose it. But if I can low cost using the municipality waste, will be going to the biofuel at all. So that is how Elementos is trying to look into the segment, or the both the segment, of the biofuel segment, also the feed segment.
Okay, now talking specifically about your organization, you are trying to set up your the organization, and also probably right now you're in the go-to-market scenario. So give a sense of how you're looking at the operations, let's say in 5 years down the line and 10 years down the line, in terms of what are the specific products you would be having, and what kind of team size you would be having in India, and maybe, I don't know, you probably also will be having your operations outside India. So give a sense of that, and what kind of professionals you will be taking into your organization, or organizations which are in the similar field like yours. What kind of educational background which is required? Because this particular podcast is targeted towards young students and professionals. So this would help them also to understand about the operations of yours and how they can actually fit into the journey.
Yeah, so Elementos at present trying to establish India's first largest commercial plant for the alternative protein productions from the insect sources. We're targeting a kind of handling of 2,000 metric tons of the waste per month to get 200 to 250 metric tons of the protein per month. This is what we are trying to achieve, completely focusing in our 2025. Having in India and trying to parallelly move on by next 3 years to have a 5,000 metric ton capacities productions under the umbrellas of Elementos in India, especially. And also we'll try to license our technologies, especially to the international markets, because we'll be the low cost and the best product, which is completely precision based developed. And in the segments, when we call that the segment I am targeting right now, the poultries, because that is the biggest segments in India and very low cost segments. And then the shrimp market, aqua markets, and moving to the pet food. So the poultry, aqua, and the pet food will be the premium markets for the next 3 years down the line. And we are targeting next 3 years to have in an overall of 10,000 metric ton capacities, whether our own manufacturing or the licensing, including all. And on the product line sides, we have a very clean combos will come up on a different product lines of poultry, starting from the protein meals, which is like a ragi, you can mix up in a feed and just give it. Then coming out with the different solutions where you are putting 15% of the cost for the disease management in the poultry. You can see, I think 2 days back, there is an outbreak in the poultry happened. So it keeps on outbreaking. So we wanted that disease management to completely handle. So we don't want that cost to add by the farmers or the manufacturer. So we wanted 20 to 25% reduction cost to put up based on our technologies, which is more on the proteins and peptide technology targeting those disease part. So that is one part. Another part is we wanted the fertilizers, one bigger verticals to have on the biostimulants and the fertilizers for different industry, whether it's for cash crops, for the different kind of crops to address this. Another is that waste management as a segment and the biofuel. So these are the verticals which will come up down the line of 3 years. We are looking at a strength of around 250 to 300 people, so where the major professionals are the deep tech biotech people. AI will be there. There are engineering where I'm looking for the pharma industries people, professionals, like example downstream processing, like the way the product is purified and everything is done. So it's basically a life sciences chemistries, biotechnology peoples, whether having the bachelor degree or master's degree or PhDs will be an asset to us. We're constantly recruiting the scientists. We have very recently recruited some more. So we will be constantly recruiting. I think we will be taking 100 more people on this year itself, having places. We did not decide where our commercial plants will come up, the largest one. But still, I think we're hoping up it will India will be the first. Of course, we are very strongly based in Norway, in Oslo, because salmon is one of the biggest market over there, holding 70% of the share in the world. We wanted to have also salmon proteins to give to salmon, so we wanted to have an establishment over there. We are targeting Europe as a very large way to have our exports to open India, to have a make in India products to go for international markets where the cost you can't beat the kind of productions they have. And also Elementos down the line, it will be too early for me to represent that, but I believe that it will be one of the largest smart alternative protein manufacturing company in Asia. And in the global, we wanted to be one of the best precision health nutrition technology company as a backbone of the technology sides. So yeah, I think for the young peoples, for the career perspectives, the people who are having the different streams of the biotechnology, when I'm saying is microbiologies, protein biochemistries, downstreams, production systems, because there will be a production system as well. So whether you are a BTech, MTech engineers or masters in life sciences, biotechnology, bioinformatics is a very crucial part in ours also. Then molecular biology and genetics, all these would be kind of people who will be actually fitted to the organizations. And also we will be more focusing on the carbon credit side also in the next future. Waste management, that side also you will be having people more who understand bioremediations, how the waste management happen. Then chemical engineering people, mechanical people will be also a part of that. And apart from that, of course, in the management, we'll always having the production management, R&D, QC, QA, and the sales. That is a normal portfolio in any of the companies. So we wanted the company to be a little bit deep tech biotech. Being in ODIA, I focus that that was a bit lacking. We always do in research that one. It's very difficult when we develop a product which is a backbone of the deep tech biotech. And having me as a founder on here, the major backbone of this entire project, I mean, the entire Elementos journey is actually the deep tech biotech, where the peptide engineering and the peptide segment has been taken care, designed for that particular meal to enhance to that level, which is major entry to barrier for our people. Yeah.
Okay, so right now your major operations is based out of Bhubaneswar. So all your research and all that is happening in Bhubaneswar, or you also collaborate with other organizations within India to collaborate?
So we are internationally collaborated. So we collaborate with University of Cambridge, Cambridge Cleantech. We collaborated with US universities. We collaborated with some of the universities in Japan. So it is internationally collaborated. My networks is helping me out. Even my people who are already worked, my students, everybody are collaborators. We are based in Bhubaneswar right now. My R&D's laboratories and everything is in the Bhubaneswar. We are trying to expand ourselves into different cities now, but we are also in Norway. So we have Norwegian partners and co-founders also are there. So we are also trying to establish in Norwegian market. But in collaborations, we are well connected and well working with all the leading top institutions in India and abroad in terms of the technology sides a lot.
Fantastic. And if somebody is, let's say, doing a bioinformatics or biotechnology engineering right now in India, and if some of them are interested to intern with you, is that a possibility?
Yeah, of course. We are taking the interns always. So I think we are always welcoming the people who are into the segments and can have, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So I think we have covered most of the points which I thought I will try to understand from you. So before we call it a day, any final words from you addressing to the young people of Odisha as well as from across the world? I mean, we are reaching out to everybody across the world. But coming from Odisha, it would be very nice to hear from you any specific message you have for people from Odisha and other young people across the world.
Yeah. So my first message would be that I think the scenario has been changed post-COVID a lot. So now the scenario is not that the way we were working before, and we're struggling with trying to get proper career platforms. Now everything is so much connected. So I think it is very easy to do it. Only thing is that you have to look into the right opportunities where the career can be shared. Having saying that, you can create an impact parallel as well, whether you can be a part of any good ventures, any good startups. Startup industries is getting boom, so I can look into the ODIA people's doing so well in the startup ecosystems, having in multiple areas, whether it is into drone, AI, biotech. But I think the my what experience I had in Odisha working over here is that there are opportunities huge in and around. You should come up with, from your universities and the colleges and start being a part of the startups where you can really flawlessly move as a bit faster state. If not, you can build an experience in a important reputed institutions in any metro cities in the bioinformatics and the biotechnologies or AI that segment. And I always feel from my side, I think you need to have a 3 to 4 year of experience at some places, whether it is in a company like a startup like Enabentos or any kind of companies, which will give you a skills also more rather than skill will be 360 degrees of why you are working and where you wanted to deploy your next 20 years time over there. So I think that is very important, and Odisha is doing really well. I saw in outsides we are doing really well, and startup ecosystem is running. I think young people should just come up on taking good decisions to join. That's more importantly to join in the front part, especially the areas which really required deep tech people's technology driven people, because ODI technology, IT market and other BT market, I saw that ODI people are growing so well in outsides, but they have to take up a risk a bit and come up and join some companies and then try to support those missions. So yeah, that is my only submissions to my community.
Okay, you seem to be a good reader also. There's so many books which are there on your closet over there. So, is there any book which you would like to suggest to our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, I think I can suggest one book for the if you know the blue ocean strategy. So very recently, this terminology came up a boom in last couple of years. So blue ocean strategy is that now the trend is happening so well, whether it is in animations, whether it is a meta, whether it is in biotech, whether it is in energy, any segment. The transitions happen so fast that blue ocean strategy is nothing but a new technological market or new market has been created, without any backgrounds it has. So we opened everyday new markets because of the growth happening so far. There is a books in the back end of mine is regarding patents. So I think any science people, the technology people, that is a very big problem. Is that to protect themselves? I think you should read IP books, protection of the law, IP books, just for knowledge, because you are coming up with something, some an idea or some product or something. So I think that is very important to have any book. I'm not suggesting any authors. Any book on the IPs should have it. And of course, Blue Ocean Strategy, because you will come up, think that next 5 years, you do not know what market is coming up, what new industries is booming up. Like you have said in while this conversation, cultured proteins. In 5 years, you'll see that, okay, there are hundreds of cultured protein company came up. So like Ola and Uber now no more is there's a lot of Ola Uber type of companies came up with the new technological in behind. So I think those two things, and I always tell my people the biggest drawback in Indian ecosystems, especially, we don't protect in academics. We don't protect IPs. So try to protect IP, whether you are a college student also. So try to protect the IPs, try to Google and try to use this AI, chat GPTs and all this, that how to protect in IPs, how can I protect my idea, my innovation. That's more important. That is why the India has gone a little bit behind in terms of economy, because we did not protect ourselves, and all of our major things has gone to Western worlds, and now we are going to fight back and take it back. So in that way, we have become the third largest, or else we would be having the biggest economy in the world.
Fantastic. Yeah, so lovely. I think very good recommendations from you. So, Dr. Das, it was fantastic to learn and talk to you, learn about your domain knowledge. Very new for me, completely new for me. And through this conversation, I could learn something. And I hope our listeners and viewers also will be able to understand about this particular exciting area of opportunity for the future. And thank you for your time today. Thank you for
Thank you
being
for
there.
giving me this opportunity. Thanks for giving me this wonderful opportunity, having a great time talking to you. And I'll be in touch. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. We sincerely wish you could take something from our conversation today and be able to apply it to your life in a positive way. We value your feedback. This can help us improve our future episodes. So share your thoughts to serve you better. If you want us to focus on a topic which you think is of importance, let us know. We will share our expertise in future episodes. So, see you soon with a new topic and help you in your career journey.